Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Warcraft Weekly, episode number 7. And this is your weekly news show, taking a look at everything that's been happening in the world of Azeroth. Today's date is the 5th of October, and we're going to be taking a look at everything that's been happening in the past 7 days. Now, before we do actually get started, you'll probably notice that this Warcraft Weekly is now audio only, and there's just going to be a holding image in the video background instead of screenshots and little clips of videos playing. I had originally intended for Warcraft Weekly to be audio only, but I did think I'd try with the videos and the screenshots, but it didn't really bring anything to the video since the links to everything are in the description anyway. So from here on out, we are going with audio only. But nevertheless, in the news this week, on Monday we had a blog post taking a look at the challenges that we're going to face in the Brawlers Guild when Season 2 goes live in Warlords of Draenor. Now, when the next season does go live, anyone who currently has a Brawlers Guild membership will keep it so you don't have to rejoin, and anyone who has not yet been able to join will be able to find the blood-soaked invitations around Draenor. Some of the changes that are being made include all Brawlers achievements earned prior to 6.0.2, which is the first season, will become legacy achievements, and new achievements for Season 2 will take their place. Now, rewards earned based on progression will remain available for purchase, and the ring reward will be updated in 6.0.2 so that it will have valuable stats for all specializations. The next patch will also introduce bosses tuned and adjusted for level 100 members, and the progression has now been reverted back to 8 tiers. Any bosses that are being removed will be added to the challenge card vendor and will become available as you progress. Now, on top of this, all of the tiers have had their boss lineups remixed, so for example, Bruce is now a rank 5 boss instead of rank 1. When Warlords does go live, there won't be any new bosses or challenge cards added, and you will be able to take Meatball back to your garrison as a new follower once you have defeated him. With the arrival of 6.0.2 just around the corner, we've put together and released a survival guide for the upcoming pre-expansion patch. Now, this survival guide takes a look at some of the bigger changes we should expect to see and how they're going to affect you. The blog post takes a look at mythic raiding, the changing seasons, the legendary questline, the pre-expansion event, new character models, changes to stats, the item squish, and also the range of class changes that are going to be made. If you aren't yet up to date with any of this information, then head on over to flaskup.com to take a look at the post now. Blizzard have released a blog post which takes a look at the 8 new dungeons we're going to be able to go and take on when Warlords of Draenor goes live. You can find out information on the dungeons such as the location, what level you will need to be to access it, how many bosses it has, and also a short but sweet paragraph of information telling you where the dungeon is located, what is within the dungeon, and also a brief art explanation on how the dungeon was put together. It's pretty cool actually. And in regards to dungeon guides, we will be releasing full written and video guides for each dungeon when Warlords of Draenor is released. Game Dev Watcher would like us to know that in regards to the tank squish, changes to mob damage are still ongoing, and it is something that they are hand-tuning on a dungeon-by-dungeon and boss-by-boss basis. The only issue that they have noticed, which is likely been significantly impacting the feel of tanking, is some legacy logic from 5.4 Vengeance, and this is no longer needed or applicable in a tanking environment. However, with the general increase of tank health and the move away from more spiky damage intake, you will find that tanks spend much more time partially injured. They're also removing any diminishing returns from Resolve while tanking multiple targets, and a hotfix for this should be now live on the beta. This will significantly improve your survivability in dungeons and also other situations where you're facing groups of mobs. Over the past week, there have been several new beta builds which have mainly focused on tuning numbers and balancing out classes so that certain classes no longer feel stupidly overpowered and are more evenly matched. A good example of this is Subtlety Rogues and Feral Druids received large nerfs as they were roughly 15% stronger than anyone else. Now, do remember that class balance will most likely go on up to and even after the release of Warlords of Draenor, so if you currently feel like you are too weak or overpowered on the beta, then the chances are the devs do know about it and are likely working on balancing out. And to wrap up the news this week, we're going to take a little bit of a jump back in time ever so slightly in order to look at how the Warcraft development team has grown over the past few years and what this means for the future of Warcraft. Now, in an article posted on Polygon, they took a look at what's next for Blizzard Entertainment in a conversation with Chris Metzen and Mike Morhaime. They explained that the Warcraft team is now 50% larger today than it was when Mists of Pandaria was shipped 2 years ago. They're already working on the next expansion and already have ideas for the expansion after that, and they have never been larger as a team. Metzen also explained that they have never been more forward-thinking about the types of things that they can do with Warcraft. Now, it's quite an interesting article in the sense that by planning ahead so much and already having people working on expansions after Warlords of Draenor and also starting to put together the one after that, we could potentially be seeing Blizzard moving towards the release schedule of a new expansion every 12 months. Now, this was previously mentioned in an interview that Ghostcrawler did back in November 2013 with IGN when he was still with the company. So whether they're going to stick with that design philosophy of a new expansion every 12 months, which was kind of brought up when Ghostcrawler was around, or if they're going to move away from that, is something we should expect to see within the next few years. Now, this also links in with an interview that Tom Chilton did with buffed.de at Gamescom, where he said that in theory, there could only be 2 raid tiers for Warlords of Draenor, and then a new expansion, but in practice, this could be different. Who knows, maybe we will get to see the announcement of a new expansion at this year's BlizzCon. So that's going to do it for this week's news. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.